I walked in late, 10:15. Whole room stared like I shouldn't be. Back row desk, head down low, counting minutes till that bell would go. Playground felt like a war zone, nowhere safe, nowhere home. Didn't know how to stand my ground, just a quiet kid in a loud new town. Then everything changed with a simple hi. I didn't know why, but it felt like a lie. We were just kids with a whole life ahead. Didn't know love, didn't know regret. Just small moments we let slip by, thinking we had all the time. You stood there closer than I could see, saying everything without saying it to me. We had forever, or so it seemed. But forever don't wait on almost dreams. New schoolyard, early bell, same old nerve, same old hell. Then you walked up, said my name, and nothing after felt the same. Sat beside you in the dark, stage lights glowing, pounding hard. Should have said something, I don't know, but I let that moment come and go. You leaned in close just once or twice, I felt it there, but I played it light. We were just kids with a whole life ahead. Didn't know love, didn't know regret. Just small moments we let slip by, thinking we had all the time. You stood there closer than I could see, saying everything without saying it to me. We had forever, or so it seemed. But forever don't wait on almost dreams. Last day bell, summer air. You said see you like you'd still be there. I said it back like I always do. Never knew what I had in you, and years roll on like they always will. Life gets loud, but your voice stands still. We were just kids with a whole life ahead.
Welcome to the deep dive. I'm just so glad you're here with us today because we are taking you on a journey that is going to, get right under your skin.
Oh, definitely. In the best, most unsettling way possible. Really.
Right, exactly. Because usually when we talk about a tragedy, whether it's, a movie or on the news or in a novel, there's this expectation of a loud, defining explosion.
Right, like a bomb going off.
Yeah. You see the flash, you hear the bang, and you can point to the exact second everything in someone's life was just destroyed. It's incredibly dramatic.
Because that's how we prefer to categorize disaster.
Yeah.
Right? We want it to be an event.
Yes, exactly.
We want it to be cinematic and obvious, so we can put a neat little boundary around it and just say, there. That is where it all went wrong.
Right. We want the destruction to be highly visible, but then you step into the world of Rob LeBlanc's Our Life series, and suddenly you realize that tragedy isn't always an explosion.
No, it really isn't.
Sometimes, if we're being honest, it's just rust. It's this incredibly slow, quiet oxidation of missed chances and unspoken words and tiny passive choices.
That is the absolute definition of a quiet catastrophe, which is exactly what LeBlanc has engineered here.
Yeah, they don't look like much in the moment, but they just compound over years until one day the structural integrity of a life just collapses.
And it is entirely devastating because it feels so startlingly ordinary.
It really does. So today we are embarking on a definitive professional literary retrospective of Rob LeBlanc's complete 4-book Our Life series.
Which is a massive undertaking, but so worth it.
Oh, absolutely. This is a story that frankly haunted me. And for those who don't know, Rob LeBlanc is a Canadian independent author and storyteller. And what makes him so unique is that his work focuses squarely on ordinary people.
Right. There are no chosen ones here. No massive global stakes.
Exactly. He writes about poverty, memory, relationships, mistakes, consequences. And above all, he writes about those quiet, seemingly disposable moments that you only recognize as the most important turning points of your life long after they are gone.
If we pull back the lens to look at the central thesis of our discussion today, I mean, this entire series is ultimately a story about time.
Yes, time.
Specifically, it's about the illusion of time. It explores the ordinary days and the people in our lives that we just assume will always be there until suddenly, irrevocably, they're in the rearview mirror.
And his writing style reflects that perfectly. As we guide you through this story, chapter by chapter, I really want you to pay attention to the silence.
The silence is almost its own character.
It really is. LeBlanc uses incredibly short sentences. There is so much repetition. The dialogue is fiercely restrained. Like, characters will have life-altering conversations using just the words, yeah or all right.
And conversations just trail off unfinished in completely ordinary settings, like a schoolyard or a parking lot.
Right. It makes you feel like you are standing right there on the pavement with these characters, watching them fail to connect.
It's a masterfully stripped-down approach. He forces the reader to look at the negative space.
So let's begin at the very foundation of the story, Book 1, where the seeds of all these future consequences are first planted.
Right, going right into chapter 1.
Yeah, we are introduced to Jax, and the very first thing we learn about him is that he is stepping into the middle of someone else's story. He is the new kid in 4th grade, and he arrives at exactly 10:15 in the morning.
That timing is such a brilliant detail. 10:15 a.m.
It is. The day has already started. Friendships for the day have been formed, jokes have been made, and Jax is just shoved into the back of the classroom.
He is immediately isolated.
Exactly. He sits there observing the room, and his eyes land on a kid who has a literal mustache in the 4th grade.
The mustache boy. It's such a visceral image of premature hardening.
It really is.
It's a physical manifestation of how wildly out of place Jax feels, but also a signal that he has landed in a really rough environment.
And the defining moment of his arrival happens when the teacher asks him a standard icebreaker. She says, "What do you want to be when you grow up?"
And Jax just blanks.
He does. He has no dreams. He doesn't have the luxury of aspiring to be an astronaut or a veterinarian, so he says, "A boxer."
Which is so heartbreaking.
It is, because he doesn't say it out of a love for the sport. He says it because, in his limited, impoverished worldview, a boxer is the only thing he has seen that looks like someone fighting back against the world and actually winning.
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
But in a brutal stroke of irony, declaring himself a fighter immediately marks him as a target for relentless bullying.
It escalates so quickly. At recess, they start taunting him. They call him Boxer. It turns into physical violence, hair pulling, shoving.
It's awful to read.
It is. And I want to pause here because the ensuing scene in the principal's office is one of the most enraging things I've ever read.
Oh, absolutely.
The principal looks at this battered, poor kid sitting in her office. She doesn't ask who hurt him. She doesn't ask if he's okay.
No, she doesn't.
She looks at his messy, overgrown hair and says, "Well, you look like Cyndi Lauper."
It is a breathtaking failure of adult intervention, and it is structurally vital to everything that happens to Jax later in life.
How so? I mean, beyond just being cruel.
Well, it raises a terrifying psychological question about authority and protection. By threatening him with the strap and telling him to just wash up, the principal teaches Jax his first defining lesson. Authority figures will not save you.
Wow. Yeah, the adults are oblivious at best and hostile at worst.
Yes, and to build on that, it forces him to seek protection outside of the system.
We see this when he goes to his only friend Ricardo's basement. Ricardo is literally lifting a broomstick with plastic grocery bags tied to the ends.
Trying to build muscle out of literal garbage.
I love this image, though, because it perfectly captures how these kids realize they have to build their own armor out of whatever scraps they can find.
That physical armor becomes a major motif. But the true psychological lock turns with the incident of the dog later in the chapter.
Oh, the dead dog. That was so hard to read.
Jax finds a dead, mutilated dog behind a local hotel. And when his dad finds out, his dad doesn't comfort him. He doesn't try to explain the cruelty of the world or help him process the trauma.
No, he just handles it quietly, and the dog is removed.
The father is completely emotionally vacant. And what does Jax take away from this?
He learns that broken things don't get fixed. They don't get talked about. They just end, and you have to swallow the feeling and move on.
Which perfectly sets up his tragic flaw. If Jax internalizes that the world is inherently hostile, that adults are completely absent, and that pain is inevitable, what is his logical next step?
To hide.
Exactly. His primary goal becomes invisibility. He decides, do not be a burden. Do not make noise. Do not draw attention.
And that instinct to hide is put to the ultimate test in Chapter 2 when Jax's family gets uprooted again and he lands at St. Andrew's Catholic School.
It's supposed to be a fresh start.
Right. And almost immediately upon arriving, he crosses paths with Lily. And Lily is entirely different from the kids at his last school.
She really is.
She walks up to him and simply asks, "Where'd you come from?" and gives him this small, acknowledging nod. She sees him.
But being seen is exactly what Jax is terrified of. Recognition means vulnerability.
Exactly. Which leads to that scene at lunch that I think perfectly encapsulates childhood anxiety. Jax is standing near the baseball diamond. For the first time, he's starting to feel a tiny bit safe.
Right, just a little bit.
But then suddenly, his stomach turns. He realizes he is going to throw up. But his overriding fear isn't that he's sick. His sheer, blinding panic comes from the thought of being seen as vulnerable or messy in front of these new kids.
The psychology here is brilliant. He doesn't go to the nurse, he doesn't tell a teacher.
No. He runs completely off the school grounds, sprints all the way to his house, cleans himself up in his own bathroom in total isolation, and hides there for the rest of the day.
He is terrified someone might have noticed his moment of weakness.
It's like he's pouring all his emotional resources into building this impenetrable concrete fortress, but completely forgetting to build a door.
That's a great way to put it.
He fixes his illness in total silence. He doesn't even tell his dad when his dad gets home. This cements his core survival mechanism. Hide your weakness, clean up your own messes in the dark, and never let anyone see you bleed.
And the tragedy is, it actually works. He manages to fit in by being quiet.
Right. He befriends JJ, who is loud and happy to do all the talking, which suits Jax perfectly. And Lily, bless her, keeps checking on him. She asks, "You settling in okay?" And his response,
Just a flat, yeah.
he is giving her absolutely nothing to work with.
Nothing.
And this dynamic is tested in Chapter 3 during a class trip to the local university to see a production of Charlotte's Web.
Oh, this scene was so frustrating.
The seating arrangement here is a microcosm of their entire future relationship. Jax sits on one side of Lily. On her other side sits an older, more confident kid named Jason.
During the play, Jason leans over. He makes jokes. He makes Lily laugh. Jax hears all of this happening right next to him.
And he does nothing. He just sits there in the dark, staring forward.
He doesn't turn. He doesn't react. This is the first major instance of a massive, lifelong pattern of missed opportunities.
Yeah, he sees the moment right in front of him. He feels the jealousy, but he assumes there is always more time to make a move later.
He chooses passivity over risk.
The narration actually says it explicitly. He thinks there are moments that sit right in front of you, simple enough to reach. He didn't move.
It makes you want to reach into the book and shake him.
It really does, because Lily is giving him openings. Like in Chapter 4, during an indoor recess while it's raining, Lily turns to him completely unprompted and asks, "Do you like it here?"
She pairs up with him for an assignment, too.
Yes. She teases him about his handwriting, saying he writes really small. It's such innocent, quiet, fourth-grade flirting.
She is constantly offering him a bridge.
She is. And then the school year simply ends. The bell rings. The bags are packed. Lily looks at him, says, "See you next year," and walks away.
And Jax just watches her go.
He doesn't say, "Have a good summer." He doesn't ask to hang out. He just lets her walk away.
Which brings up a profound point for you, the listener, to consider.
Yeah, think about your own past for a second. Have you ever had a moment that felt completely ordinary, like a throwaway afternoon, only to realize years later it was the last time you'd speak to someone in that exact innocent, unburdened way?
Jax doesn't know that this silence is the foundation of a dynamic that will ultimately unravel his life. He just lets the moment pass, assuming time is an infinite resource.
So as time moves forward and we roll into Chapters 5 and 6, the middle of their childhood, we enter this phase that LeBlanc uses to explore the illusion of time.
Right, the seasons change, the snow falls, the heat returns, but Jax's passivity remains an absolute constant.
The world around him is in motion, but he is completely static.
LeBlanc uses the changing seasons brilliantly to show the passage of time against Jax's internal stagnation. As winter turns into spring, Lily tries once again to pull Jax out of his shell.
She literally asks him, "Do you ever think about stuff, like, later?"
She's asking about the future, about his dreams, about anything beyond the immediate present.
And he flatly says, "Not really."
Hmm?
She mentions she might go away for the summer. And Jax, he just nods.
I found myself so deeply frustrated with him during these interactions.
Me too. If a girl you like says she's going away, you ask where. You ask for how long.
But Jax mistakes silence for safety. If he doesn't ask, he can't be rejected. If he doesn't reach for her, he can't fall.
But by not reaching, he's actively losing her anyway. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy of abandonment.
Precisely. And what's fascinating sociologically is LeBlanc's recurring motif of things staying the same.
Oh, definitely.
Poverty and trauma often breed a desperate need for predictability. Jax is comforted by routine. He likes that JJ does the talking so he doesn't have to.
He likes that Lily is just there in his periphery.
But human relationships are organic. They require cultivation or they atrophy.
And the contrast becomes almost physically jarring as they get older. In chapters 7 and 8, Winter returns again. Lily asks if he ever thinks about leaving everything behind. Again, he says no.
But physically, Jax is changing.
Yes. He looks in the mirror and flexes his arm. He notices muscle building. He's growing into a young man.
It's this incredibly tragic juxtaposition. He is pouring all his energy into building physical strength while remaining completely, totally emotionally paralyzed.
Because it's a defense mechanism that has outlived its usefulness. The physical muscle is for the mustache boys of the world.
Right. It's armor against the physical threats of his childhood poverty.
Yeah.
But you can't use physical armor to protect against emotional vulnerability.
The armor he is building actually blocks the genuine connection Lily is offering him.
That is exactly it. And as elementary school draws to a close in chapters 9 and 10, LeBlanc writes these final days with this terrifying, muffled quietness.
The days just slip into weeks. There is no grand finale, no cinematic graduation speech. Jax just packs his bag.
Lily steps in front of him, says, "See you next year," and lingers. She waits for half a second for him to do or say anything.
And when he doesn't, she turns and walks away.
LeBlanc writes a line here that I think is the thesis of the entire series. Some moments don't feel like anything when they happen. They just pass. And by the time you realize what they were, they're already gone.
God, that line just hits so hard.
Jax is solidifying into a person who lets things pass if they don't demand an immediate physical reaction. He assumes the world will wait for him to be ready.
It is a fatal miscalculation of how time works. And that transitions us into Book 2, their high school years, where the drift between them fractures into something permanent.
The divergence between Jax and Lily becomes incredibly stark.
Think of it like two people on a moving walkway at an airport. Lily is walking forward on it. She's joining clubs, making friends, getting a job, building confidence.
And Jax is just standing perfectly still, letting the belt carry him.
Right, not realizing that he's slowly moving backward relative to her. But before the gap widens completely, we get this breathtakingly vivid scene in Chapter 1 on Christmas morning.
This scene is arguably the emotional fulcrum of their early relationship.
It is. JJ and Jax end up at Angela and Lily's house on Christmas morning. The girls are just hanging out, and the boys basically invite themselves over.
Eventually, the four of them go for a walk in the untouched, pristine snow. JJ and Angela naturally walk faster and pull ahead, leaving Jax and Lily alone, trailing behind.
Jax notices Lily is shivering, and he takes off his jacket and gives it to her. Now, wait, I want to talk about this because I read this as a deeply romantic moment.
Interesting.
It plays right into the classic teen movie trope. He gives her the jacket. They're walking in the quiet snow. It feels like this warm, almost realized connection. He asks if she still lives in the same place. It felt like he was finally trying.
I completely understand why you read it that way, but I am going to push back on that interpretation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the surface, yes, it has the trappings of romance. But if we look closely at LeBlanc's text, it actually highlights their fundamental tragic disconnect.
How so?
Well, yes, they share a physical jacket,
Right.
but they are utterly incapable of sharing their inner lives. Listen to the dialogue you just mentioned. They exchange literal one-word sentences.
Oh, I see what you mean.
He asks, "You still live in the same place?" She says, "Yeah." She asks, "You?" He says, "Yeah, same." It is entirely hollow.
Wow. When you put it like that, it is completely barren.
And LeBlanc gives us a brilliant spatial metaphor here. On the way back, they literally cross their own footprints in the snow.
Oh, it's circular.
Exactly. They're physically close, sharing a coat,
Yeah.
but they are miles apart emotionally. They are going nowhere.
And the tragic irony of Jax asking if she still lives in the same place is cemented later that same day.
When they go to the mall,
Yes. Jax and JJ are at the mall. They bump into Angela, and Angela casually mentions that Lily moved away.
oh, that stung so badly.
Wait.
Lily moved, Angela says,
Aw.
and Jax just stands there, stunned.
You're right. The jacket was an illusion of closeness. She was moving, and she didn't even think to tell him. Because why would she? He never shares anything with her.
Right. So in chapters 2 and 3, as they drop into high school routines, Lily is thriving. Angela gives a speech, and we are introduced to Chris.
Chris is this steady, present, communicative guy who starts hanging around Lily. Meanwhile, the community dances begin.
Jax is there, but he's fading into the background. He even has a girlfriend for a brief period who literally looks at him and says, "You're not even paying attention."
He is physically present, but entirely checked out of his own existence. And he starts skipping class.
We are seeing the physical manifestation of the drift. Jax doesn't wake up one morning and make a conscious decision to ruin his life.
No, he just stops actively participating in it. He lets the current take him.
He starts smoking downtown with kids who have no ambition, who are just killing time.
Which leads to the massive turning point in Chapter 4, in the park. Jax, JJ, and some others are walking through a park, and a group of guys starts messing with JJ.
JJ gets shoved down to the ground.
And Jax, acting purely on instinct, violently defends his friend. He throws punches, it's chaotic, it's bloody, and the consequences are swift and severe.
This is where the social structures around them assert themselves. JJ's mom looks at the aftermath of this fight, and she essentially bans Jax from hanging around her son.
She looks at Jax and doesn't see a loyal friend. She sees a bad influence, a lost cause, a violent kid from a bad home.
Furthermore, Jax ends up in the legal system. He gets criminal probation and is relegated to the school's resource room, separated from the mainstream student body.
Which begs a huge question, and I really want to debate this with you. Where does understanding a character's circumstances end and personal responsibility begin?
That's the core question, isn't it?
I mean, we know Jax had a tough childhood. We know his dad is emotionally absent. We know the principal failed him. But could Jax's life have changed earlier? Could he have made a different choice in that park?
It's the eternal debate of determinism versus free will, of nature and nurture versus personal agency. LeBlanc is incredibly careful not to excuse Jax's choices while fully illuminating the circumstances that forged them.
Right.
Jax's instinct to resort to violence was ingrained on his very first day of 4th grade with the mustache boy. He learned early on that hitting back is the only way to survive because authority won't protect you.
But as a high schooler, applying that childhood survival mechanism results in him being funneled into the juvenile justice system.
Exactly.
But doesn't the system bear some of the blame here? They just toss him in the resource room and put him on probation. They slap a label on him.
They absolutely do. But here is where Jax's agency comes in. He accepts the label without a fight.
That's true.
He takes personal responsibility by not fighting the probation, but he also completely surrenders to the identity of a bad kid. He doesn't try to prove JJ's mom wrong. He just leans into it.
He really does. In chapters 5 and 6, he starts drinking more heavily, and we get this incredibly poignant scene outside one of the community dances.
Jax steps out into the cold night air.
Lily comes out and finds him sitting on the concrete edge. They have this painful exchange. You still with him? Jax asks, referring to Chris. Yeah, she says. You still going downtown? She asks, referring to his bad habits. Sometimes, he says.
They are just staring at each other across this massive, expanding divide.
And then later, we get the fairground scene by the chain link fence.
What's fascinating here is how LeBlanc uses totally ordinary settings, like a loud, chaotic fair, a cheap chain link fence, to emphasize emotional barriers.
Jax literally retreats from the noise and the lights of the fair, standing by a fence in the dark. Lily leaves her friends and finds him there.
She leans on the fence next to him and says, "It's different out here. It's quiet."
For a second, just a fraction of a second, it feels like they might finally cross the bridge to one another.
But then Angela and Chris call Lily away. Her real life is calling her.
And Jax, he just watches her walk back into the light. He doesn't fight for her. He doesn't say stay. He just lets her go.
And as the school year progresses into Chapter 7, Jax is constantly late. The dances continue. But the gap between Jax and Lily isn't just a drift anymore. It's widened into an uncrossable chasm.
Which brings us to chapters 8 through 14, this harrowing acceleration where the quiet drift turns into an irreversible tragedy. This is the breaking point.
Time starts moving so relentlessly here.
It really does. Lily's life is steady. She is moving toward graduation, making plans. Jax is slipping away completely. His dad finally notices the severity of his son's downward spiral and tries to lay down the law.
He tells Jax, "You're not taking the truck."
But Jax just defies him. He nods, grabs the keys, and goes out anyway. He has completely detached from any form of authority or consequence.
Because he feels he has nothing left to lose. He feels entirely untethered, which is a terrifying state of mind for a teenager with access to alcohol and vehicles.
Oh, absolutely terrifying.
The contrast LeBlanc draws on graduation day in chapters 11 and 12 is brilliant and deeply painful. Lily walks the stage, surrounded by friends, family, and the promise of a future.
And Jax skips the ceremony entirely. He wakes up late in his childhood bed to the mundane, drone-like sound of his dad pushing a lawnmower outside.
That lawnmower detail is so specifically crushing.
It is. While Lily is crossing a literal and figurative threshold into her adulthood, Jax's world is so stagnant and small that his dad is just doing routine yard work. It is brilliantly depressing.
And then that night, at the grad dance, Jax shows up, but stays completely on the periphery. He watches Lily dancing with Chris, looking happy, and then he steps outside the gym doors.
This is a vital spatial representation of their lives. LeBlanc repeats this motif constantly.
Lily is inside. She is inside the warmth of the gym, the light, the social contract, the future.
Right, and Jax is always stepping outside into the cold, into the dark, outside of society's expectations.
During the summer following graduation in Chapter 13, he's just drifting. There's a moment where he sees Lily getting out of a car with Chris in a parking lot.
They don't see him. And Jax just keeps walking. He fully accepts his role as a ghost in her life. He has written himself out of her story.
Which sets the stage for the crash in Chapter 14.
The crash! Wow.
Now, listen to how LeBlanc constructs this, because it strips away all the Hollywood glamour of a car chase or a dramatic blowout. It's a random, forgettable afternoon.
Jax has been drinking. He isn't necessarily blackout drunk, just buzzed enough to numb his apathy. He takes someone's keys to a car that isn't even his.
A girl named Nicole, who runs in his peripheral circle, gets in the passenger seat.
The dialogue in the car leading up to the crash is unbearable. Nicole is essentially acting as the voice of reality, desperately trying to break through Jax's thick layer of apathy.
She looks at him and says, "You shouldn't be driving."
He gives his standard dismissive response, "I'm fine." She pushes harder. She tells him he's been acting different, that he doesn't care about anything anymore, and finally she screams at him, "You're not listening."
And he isn't listening. He's annoyed. He is so frustrated by her forcing him to actually look at his own life and his own failures that he loses focus on the road for just a fraction of a second.
The mechanics of the crash happen in a heartbeat. The road curves. Jax looks back at the road a split second too late. He jerks the wheel.
The tires lose grip on the asphalt.
He overcorrects. The back end of the car slips out. The headlights swing wildly across the dark trees. The car jumps the curb. And then the trunk of a tree fills the entire windshield.
LeBlanc simply writes, "Everything stopped."
It is sudden, brutal, and clinical physics. It is the result of 1,000 minor passive mistakes compounding over years into one massive, fatal error.
And the epilogue to that moment is chilling.
Time stops for them, but the world around the crash, the streetlights humming, the sleeping houses, the crickets, remains completely unchanged and indifferent.
But inside that crushed metal, their lives as they knew them have violently ended.
It's the ultimate horrific consequence of assuming you always have more time to fix things. Time just ran out.
That brings us to Book 3, the structural pivot of the entire series. We move away from Jax's internal emotional drift and are suddenly forced to look at the agonizing ripple effects of the crash on the entire community.
Yes. Chapters 1 and 2, we are looking at the blast radius. LeBlanc shows us how tragedy ruptures the mundane routines of everyone connected to Jax and Nicole.
We experience the visceral reactions to the call.
Jax's mom is standing at the kitchen sink, listening to the radio, casually washing a plate. The phone rings. She answers, drops the plate in the sink, and runs out the door, leaving the house exactly as it was.
His dad gets the call of the military base, surrounded by the noise and chaos of his job, and he just drops everything and walks away.
And then, in chapters 3 and 4, LeBlanc brings the blast radius to the school level. Lily and Angela are waiting at the bus stop. It's a normal morning, but they notice that both Jax and Nicole are missing.
And then in class, Lily just stares at their empty desks.
This is where LeBlanc's restraint is so incredibly powerful. He doesn't show the horror of the tragedy through blood on the dashboard or blaring ambulance sirens.
He shows it through negative space. An empty desk. The absence of a backpack. The silence in the room where two people used to be.
It allows the dread to build organically in you as the reader, mirroring Lily's dawning, sickening realization.
Exactly. The tension is unbearable. In chapters 5 and 6, they call a school assembly. JJ is sitting in the bleachers, and he gets a text.
He stares at his phone, the blood completely drains from his face, and he abruptly stands up and leaves, just muttering that his mom needs him.
Angela and Lily watch him go. They know something is deeply structurally wrong, but they don't have the vocabulary for it yet.
Which culminates in the devastating confrontation at the hospital in chapters 7 through 10. Jax's parents rush in. They finally see their son.
He is bruised, battered, and crucially, his wrist is handcuffed to the metal railing of the hospital bed.
The police officer in the room delivers the crushing objective facts. Jax was driving, there was alcohol in his system, and Nicole is in emergency surgery. Her injuries are severe.
And here's where I found myself incredibly torn, and I really need to argue this with you.
Okay, let's hear it.
In that hospital room, Jax opens his eyes. He is broken, physically and spiritually. He looks at his parents and just whispers, "I'm sorry, I didn't think."
Oh, my heart absolutely broke for him.
But look at the whole picture. I mean, think about the adults who failed him, the principal who mocked him, the father who ignored his childhood trauma, the justice system that just tossed him in a resource room instead of getting him a counselor.
Right.
Isn't this crash the inevitable end of that assemble line? Can we really put all the blame on a kid who is programmed to fail?
I hear your sympathy, and I understand the assembly line theory. But I am going to push back incredibly hard on that, because that theory removes Jax's hands from the steering wheel.
It does, yeah.
We can indict the systemic failures, we can acknowledge the tragedy of his childhood, while still holding the individual entirely accountable. Yes, he is a broken boy crying in a hospital bed, but he is also a young man who ignored every warning sign, who defied his father, who chose to steal keys while impaired, and who shattered another human being's body.
That's a very fair point.
The unseen victim here is Nicole, who is literally fighting for her life in a surgical theater because of his hubris. The handcuffs on his wrist are a stark, necessary reminder of reality. Impaired driving is a violent crime, not just a stupid mistake. Understanding Jax's pain does not negate his absolute culpability.
That is a harsh reality, but you are right. Nicole is the collateral damage of his apathy. So as Jax faces the legal system, how do the people left behind move forward? Because the world refuses to stop turning for Lily.
In chapters 11 and 12, the news spreads through the town like a virus. JJ has this incredibly tense, quiet dinner with his dad where the reality of what his best friend has done settles in. JJ then calls Angela.
And Angela is tasked with calling Lily to break the news in chapter 13.
And Lily's reaction on the phone is so unsettling to read. Angela tells her everything. Jax crashed a stolen car, he was drunk, Nicole is in critical condition in surgery, and Jax is in police custody.
And Lily, on the other end of the line, just says, "Oh, that's really bad."
It is entirely flat. There are no hysterics, no screaming.
We have to dive deep into that suppressed reaction. Is she in shock? Yes, partly. But psychologically, I argue that Lily had already mourned Jax.
You think so?
Yeah, she had spent the last 4 years watching him slowly fade into a ghost. The boy she knew on the playground, the boy who gave her his jacket in the snow, was already gone. This violent tragedy is just the physical manifestation of the emotional death that had already occurred between them.
That makes perfect sense. She had already let him go out of self-preservation, which explains the introduction of Kevin in chapters 15 and 16.
Kevin is everything Jax is not. He is steady, he is present, he communicates, he is entirely safe.
At the next school dance, JJ pulls the girls aside and reveals the final verdict. Jax was sentenced and sent to a juvenile detention center upstate.
And immediately after hearing that the boy she once cared for is locked in a cage, Lily turns around and goes to dance with Kevin.
The juxtaposition is jarring, but LeBlanc includes a line here that is crucial. He notes everything around them perfect, or close enough.
Which raises such a fascinating question. Does Lily truly love Kevin? Or is Kevin just a symbol of the safe, steady, predictable life that Jax could never give her?
She smiles at Kevin on the dance floor, but the chapter ends noting there is a part of her she couldn't name, and she said nothing. She is settling for the illusion of safety.
Exactly. She is choosing the path of least resistance. Ironically, she's doing exactly what Jax did, letting the current take her, but she's doing it in a socially acceptable, upwardly mobile direction.
Which pivots us directly into Book 4, focusing on Jax's harrowing institutionalization. We start in chapters 1 and 2, in the courtroom for his sentencing.
His mother's weeping, begging the judge. He's just a kid.
But the judge just reads the sterile legal words, decision, harm, cause. The gavel falls with absolute finality. Jax is taken away in handcuffs.
And the text puts you, the reader, right inside that transport van in chapters 3 and 4.
The sensory shock of intake into the detention center is profound. The claustrophobia is immediate.
LeBlanc describes the coldness of the facility, noting that it isn't just the temperature on a thermostat, it's the air itself. It's the institutional erasure of his humanity.
It is brutal to read through chapters 5 to 8. The strip search. Being thrown into a concrete cell with a stranger, the bottom bunk guy.
The fluorescent lights that never fully turn off, so you never truly get to rest in darkness.
The sudden, violent wake-up calls blaring over the loudspeaker at dawn. Jax is completely, entirely stripped of his autonomy. He is told when to stand, when to sleep, when to eat, when to speak.
But notice what Jax does in this environment. He adapts, he watches, he learns the unwritten rules of the unit in chapters 9 through 15.
Right, he memorizes the smell of the showers, he figures out the unspoken hierarchy at the cafeteria tables.
He navigates this brutal hypermasculine system the exact same way he navigated childhood poverty and bullying, by becoming invisible, watching, and surviving.
It is a dark, tragic mirror to his fourth-grade self.
It truly is.
Uh-huh.
But the pivotal breakthrough comes when he meets with the facility counselor.
Yes. The counselor looks at Jax, reads his file, and says, "You don't belong in that unit, but that's not the whole story. You made a mistake."
And for the first time in his entire life, Jax finally owns his actions. He doesn't say yeah or all right. He says, because I messed up.
He stops using words of surrender and starts taking ownership of his own destruction.
This brings us to chapters 16 through 20, the emotional climax of the series, his release, and the attempt to rebuild.
Jax learns to move through the privilege levels of the facility. He consciously avoids the fights that he used to jump into.
Time starts moving differently for him because, ironically, while he is in a physical prison, he is finally present in his own life.
When he is finally released to a halfway house in chapter 21, there's this crushing realization. He looks out the window and there are no bars on the glass.
He is out of a physical cage, but he realizes he is not truly free.
The weight of what he did, the phantom memory of the crash, the knowledge of Nicole's permanent injuries, it is all still entirely on his shoulders.
Which perfectly sets the stage for chapter 22, the final scene of the entire series. The road.
Oh, this scene. This is LeBlanc's masterpiece of a closing scene, and we need to dissect it meticulously.
I've not stopped thinking about this scene either.
Jack's wearing a bright neon orange vest, doing court-mandated roadside cleanup on a highway. He is literally wearing his consequence for the whole world to see, picking up trash on the side of a dusty road.
And a dark, clean, expensive-looking car passes by, playing music.
And inside that clean, insulated car are JJ, Angela, Kevin, and Lily. The four of them are moving forward with their lives, physically insulated in this moving bubble of success and normalcy.
Kevin looks out the window, sees the inmates in orange vests, and casually, dismissively says, "People mess up." I guess that's what happens.
It is such a gut punch. Kevin dismisses Jax's entire existence, his entire tragedy, in one thoughtless sentence.
And then Lily looks out the window. She looks past Kevin, and as the car speeds by, her eyes meet Jax's on the side of the road.
They hold that look. Through the glass, across the asphalt, and then the car just keeps moving forward.
Lily looks forward again, back at her safe life. And Jax bends down, picks up another piece of trash, puts it in his bag, and keeps moving down the road.
Okay, I have to debate this ending with you. Can two people deeply matter to each other without ending up together? Can Jax truly rebuild his life after causing such irreversible harm?
It's the ultimate question of the series.
Because part of me, the part conditioned by happy endings, wanted Lily to yell, "Stop the car." I wanted her to get out, run to him, and for forgiveness to equal reunion.
I get that.
Yeah.
But if LeBlanc had written that, it would have betrayed the entire thesis of this series.
Yeah, I suppose so.
LeBlanc is telling us something much harder to swallow. Forgiveness and understanding do not require reunion. Irreversible harm is just that. Irreversible. You cannot undo a car crash.
Right.
When Lily looks back at him through the glass, it is an acknowledgement of a ghost. It is the mutual recognition of a life unlived, a path not taken because of 1,000 passive mistakes.
But she looks forward again because her life is with Kevin now, however safe and imperfect it might be.
And Jax bending down to pick up the trash is his acceptance of his penance. He cannot undo Nicole's injuries. He can only move forward, carrying the heavy weight of his consequence.
So as we close the book on this incredible series, what does this all mean for you listening right now? Distilling these 4 books down, the core takeaway is the absolute devastating tragedy of assuming there is always more time.
It's about the compounding nature of small, passive choices.
We all have a Jax or a Lily in our past.
Yeah.
We all have moments we let slip by because we assumed we had tomorrow to fix it, to say the words, to make the move.
We assume that if we just stand still, things will stay the same.
Yeah.
But inaction is a choice. Time moves forward, carrying everything with it, whether we are actively participating in our lives or not.
It's a harsh reality. Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to mull over today. Think about the absolute most mundane conversation you had today. Maybe it was at a coffee shop, or passing a coworker in the hallway, or just standing at your kitchen sink.
What if that exact, unremarkable, seemingly disposable moment is the one you will look back on in 10 years as the pivotal turning point of your entire life?
The split second where a completely different future was either secured or lost forever.
A chilling but deeply necessary reminder to stay awake in our own lives.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Rob LeBlanc's Our Life. We've explored the silence, the drift, and the heavy weight of consequence. Until next time, keep reading, and please pay attention to the quiet moments. They are so much louder than you think.
I walked in late, 10:15, whole room stared like I shouldn't be. Back row desk, head down low, counting minutes till that bell would go. Playground felt like a war zone, nowhere safe, nowhere home. Didn't know how to stand my ground, just a quiet kid in a loud new town. Then everything changed with a simple hi. I didn't know why, but it felt like a lie. We were just kids